Thanks for organising this, Lewis, again. It's a well-attended event, and it's great to be talking about blockchain again at the beginning of 2018. Just to give you a quick background about me, I'm Daniel Doll-Steinberg. I've been in global platforms for many years, starting in derivative technology, building a lot of derivative tech, and then moving into the entertainment space, where I created platforms for delivering assets around the world, and I co-founded a few companies in that space. Summer 2016, I saw the blockchain, sort of got to learn about it and realized that we were in a state very similar to where the internet was in the mid-90s. And having sort of missed that boom, I decided I wasn't going to do that again and started working in this space. Created a sort of company with a funky name, Blockchain Smokers, to try and bring industrial solutions into the blockchain. And during that process, sort of helped some companies come in. I started working at the beginning of 2017 on a project called Project Virtue, which is in the gaming space, which we are announcing officially next week under its new banner. But I spend a lot of my time going around the world sort of evangelizing about the blockchain. I think it's an incredible innovation. And what's been happening in 2017 has been quite incredible, you know, with the token sale market, with some real projects starting to come out, with some very big companies and some very small companies sort of entering the space. And you see a lot of change in 2017, but I thought I'd let the panel talk about this. So on the panel, I've got Nitesh, Fabio, Eduardo, and Jason from venture capital, from a platform company, and from IBM. I don't know how else to describe IBM as just IBM. They do everything. And I thought I'd let them introduce themselves, and then we'll sort of talk about where we are and what we think is going to happen in the short term.
Thank you. My name is Fabio Lafranca. I work for a traditional venture capital fund called Station 12. We invest in media, entertainment, and knowledge. So that includes video, TV, games, VR, AR. You can think of any vertical in media, entertainment, and knowledge, education. And we've been looking at blockchain for the media, entertainment, and knowledge industry. So, for example, music, any form of IP that's falling under entertainment. Personal background, well, I'm not a techie, I'm not tech guy, I'm an accountant with a background in finance, and I'm fascinated with what's happened in the last 2-3 years in the world of crypto and blockchain. Still trying to figure it out, but aware of all the opportunities for the ecosystem for us as investors.
Thank you, Jason.
Great, thanks, and Fabio, thank you. Jason Kelly, and I'm the Global General Manager for IBM Blockchain Services, and I love it when I say, so, you know, how else do you describe IBM? And I like to call us, you know, the best 107-year-old startup that you've ever met, and we continue to start up all those things that we do, but with regard to blockchain, we have been focused on bringing blockchain to the enterprise, making it consumable, making it real, so that all those ecosystem partners that we work with can come quickly to the forefront and deliver value, true outcome for business, not just a novelty or the next hyped thing in the market. And that's what I look forward to talking with all of you about here in the next few minutes, so thanks for having us.
Hi everyone, thanks a lot for having me. My name is Edward Garson. I work for White Star Capital. We're a transatlantic venture capital fund with offices between London, Paris, Montreal, and New York, and actually now recently Tokyo, to help with our company's portfolio expansion. We invest at the Series A stage, so we've done some blockchain companies in the past. The idea is to invest checks between $2 to $6 million and help with our company's growth internationally. I'm really excited to be here today. I've been sort of covering blockchain and the ICO space for White Star. And we're going to try and find some interesting companies this year and hopefully today as well.
Hi, thanks. My name is Nitesh. I'm the COO of Tallysticks. So Tallysticks is a product-led application focused on trade finance, particularly for small to medium enterprises. That's our kind of key target market. Last year, we were fully on-chain, and actually we made the call to pivot away from that for some of the reasons which I think we'll discuss later on. You know, in essence, it's about being an infrastructure play versus an application play, and some of the other kind of wider implications of what that means. That's kind of a summary of what we're looking for. Is trade finance with small to medium enterprises focused on international trade.
Thank you. So in 2017, we saw a lot of excitement about the blockchain. A lot of people moved into it in lots of industrial areas, and we're sort of talking about the state of play now. So where do we see in 2018 the big areas for blockchain? Where are people going to move from proof of concept into real products? And what areas are we going to see new projects announced and change those industries?
Well, I'll start off with some of the things that we're seeing in the industry. And some of you may have been privy to an announcement that was just made here at the top of the week with regards to a joint venture that is soon to come together between IBM and Maersk. And that's in global trade. And when you think global trade, it's not just shipping. 80% of all consumer goods go through a shipping channel. So that then opens up this large capability. So when you hear me mention blockchain for the enterprise, that's pretty damn big. And that's where we think there's opportunity to open up this capability into larger enterprise. Now, you think of prior efforts that are IBM efforts that are pretty popular in the market, and you think of trade finance. Nitish and I spent time this morning talking about that, allowing SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises, to get into that trade. That's again, common word, trade. And then another effort that we have really doubled down on is through the supply chain, and specifically with Walmart and many of their players in the market for food safety. You know, it's hard to argue against food safety. People say, wait a second, they're working with their competition. Well, yeah, you do that when it's food safety. You know, you think of a third of the food that's processed goes to waste, not to mention the millions of foodborne illness cases year to year. So, Jason, what the hell did you just say? You mentioned 3 different examples. Well, in each one of those, there's trade. And so that's the transfer of goods, transfer of value. And each one of them within those examples are networks in and of themselves. However, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out that those then become interwoven. You have the finance, you have the actual trade and shipping of those goods, and then you have the transport chain. So now you have this vision of a network of networks. That's where we're going. 2016 was blockchain tourism. Last year was the whole blockchain POC experiment pilot. This year is the year of blockchain production. That's what we're seeing.
Sure, or blockchain as an excuse even. There are lots of blockchain now. I totally agree with the supply chain, the manufacturing side of it, fintech, clearly in London as well. In terms of media entertainment, as soon as you switch on your phone, you consume content effectively. So it might be even more apparent, the impact of blockchain in terms of smart contracts, how we consume content, a song, a film, or how you buy content. We can easily imagine an experience, maybe even through Facebook or Snapchat, where micropayments suddenly are possible. You can put a video on Facebook, and Facebook is not making all the money. Some of that tokens can go to, I mean, we'll talk about tokens later on, but some of the monetization can go to the producer of content. So there will be a shift, a massive shift in how we produce content and how we consume content. And I think will be more maybe the end of the tail going to mainstream, or maybe earlier, but certainly a big impact in media entertainment.
I was going to say, just my take is that there's 2 parts to this question. Is what industries are being impacted by the blockchain today, and there's, at its current form, not that many. IBM is obviously doing a lot with global trade and food security, but conceptually, there's a lot of things that can be impacted by the blockchain, but we yet to see what that can actually become based on the technology that's going to be built over the years. So theoretically, yes, pretty much everything. But we'll see how that comes by.
Yeah, I guess to add on to that, I think if we distinguish between blockchain projects and crypto projects, I think that's first quite important distinction that then tailors where you think this is going, where the crypto market is going, where the crypto applications are going. That's a whole other kettle of fish. Where blockchain-led applications are going, I think we will see a lot of churn this year. I think a lot of business cases are built on blockchain that I wouldn't necessarily say merit blockchain. And I think also we're getting to the point where, as you said, Jason, for a lot of these elements, when you're looking at putting things on chain, and we saw this last year at TallySticks with our 4 POCs with corporates last year, when you get down to the business case, you realize it's a huge infrastructure change, it's a huge mindset change, and everyone has to play nice together. And a bunch of startups, clever guys in a room, clever guys and girls in a room, though we may be, we can't force that change. We can't bring those parties into that conversation. That is where an IBM comes in, and then they can develop and concentrate on that infrastructure and those big problems. And I think smaller startups that are still concentrated on blockchain, they may have to modify their business case a bit, but hopefully they can start to build real, tangible, benefit-leading applications on top of infrastructure that we just leave to someone else. There's so many moving parts to this, and on blockchain projects in particular, I think that's where you'll see the biggest change.
Yeah, thanks. So I saw last year a lot of sort of bipolarity in this space, which is a lot of people just put blockchain against their company because they could raise money or it just sounded cool. And then you got a lot of people that I talked to and they said, what's the blockchain? Why should I be doing it? Even people saying, Bitcoin is evil and the blockchain is Bitcoin and we should avoid it. And we got a sort of difference of view here, which is, Nitesh coming from the, I looked at it and it wasn't right for me now, and then Jason's looking at a lot of companies that are moving into it. What are the criteria for really using the blockchain? And once you've decided that it's right for you, what are the platforms out there, and why would you choose one over another, and which ones do you think are there to stay?
I had a great conversation with Nitish because, as you say, there's some differing opinions, but it's actually a common view. When you have this hype about, this is going to solve everything, we tend to throw that. First it was, we can go back years now, and I'm, just over 25 years old. I know the sun has done much to my skin, but I'm really young. But SOA, service-oriented architecture, back when, that was everything. They were going to throw that out there. And then it was all about cognitive and AI, or big data and analytics even before that, so we can all line those things up. And so now it's blockchain. And Nitish, you have to give he and his company credit because they did the POCs. They looked and said, this isn't it. This isn't what those companies were asking for. It wasn't returning value. So this thought of just throwing blockchain at everything is absurd. Most of us understand that. And so we have to understand what works. So there's things that we look at across the companies, regardless of industry, regardless of geo, regardless of business opportunity. And you look at those things in business that drive value, where you see a lot of people, process, and paperwork. It's always threes, and if I give you the alliteration of PPP, then you'll remember that. So 3 Ps: people, process, and paperwork. And everything that I've talked about and examples I've given are prime for then adding the value that you're going to get out of provenance, out of the visibility, out of the trust, because that then begins to shrink the cost of doing business. And people say, it's a cost play. Well, if you shrink the cost, that releases capital, which then releases opportunity. I have the accountant sitting next to me so he can validate all of this. Then that frees up capital so that then you can expand the market. And that market extension comes from the new business models that result from what we're talking about here.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
we and I, Tally6, we are a big believer in blockchain. I guess I'll walk you through the example just for 2 minutes, sorry. We were in these POCs with multinationals and with SMEs, and let's say there's 5 of us here, and we're in a chain, we're in a supply chain. You don't want your data public, so therefore you want a permission chain, fine. Once you want a permission chain, even within these elements, you don't want that data to be shared by everyone. So then you want levels of obfuscation of data and identities and transaction data that we can achieve that, but ultimately you're trusting Tally6 at the end of the day to link all that obfuscated data to real-world data. If you're trusting one company to do that, you've re-engineered an element of centrality back into a decentralized application. That is why we had to move away from that, because as you can imagine, we're talking to large multinational oil and gas companies, shipping companies, FMCG companies, and we didn't carry the weight in that conversation to decide, okay, who's actually going to own this? Who's going to manage this? That's why we had to step away. We do know where blockchain could fit back into our business case. Well, that's what we want. But there are fundamental issues, especially from a business-led side, that need to be solved before you can figure out how to build these applications and the infrastructure underneath it.
I think as a VC, I mean, we can see a lot of value being created. The question is, where is the value going? Is it going to the ecosystem? Is it going to an end user? Or, well, in our case, the value has to go to the investors in our fund. I mean, there's Bitcoin and there's the blockchain. When we look at the blockchain, what is the actual use case? What is it for? Is blockchain necessary? Can a database do a better job? Can a distributed ledger do a better job? So there will be a lot of value created, but also we need to be careful of the sequencing, especially as a VC. When we invest, we come in at a certain point. What is the exit point? If somebody said, would you invest in an email in 1993? Well, yeah, that sounds great, all these possibilities, but it might be a bit too early to invest in a Facebook, or, I mean, Google didn't exist. There will be way more applications, and then there is lots of iteration. So we can see the value in terms of the actual application and the use case. We're still very careful as VCs or accountants even. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think for a lot of things, investment related, it's all about timing. If the necessary infrastructure is not there to actually empower startups to build on top of, and we discussed this with Jason before the panel, we had an interesting sort of small debate on it, but it's obviously really important. And in 2017, as VCs, we saw a lot of companies coming to us saying, we're building blockchain for X or Y or Z. And at the end of the day, it sounds great, but when we would actually ask the questions as to any software company, why does your client need this? How much are you actually saving? And how long will it take for you to build? Like simple questions. They would sort of get lost in the narrative because the technology is still in its infancy. So I think once you manage to actually answer those fundamental questions, we're going to see a lot of funding back into those companies. But between 2013 and today, most blockchain companies failed to actually raise a second round, about 50% more than traditional startups.
Interesting we moved on to sort of investing because last year it was all about token sales. That's what sort of drove the excitement in this space. And you saw three different phases in token sales. You saw pre-June where it was companies raising small amounts. You saw June to October where companies were raising insane amounts, some of which were complete dreamers. And then you had November, December where it pretty much stopped because of the Bitcoin rise and people were keeping all in Bitcoin. But 2018 has started off with a massive boom in that. I mean, there are so many crypto funds. So how do we see token sales / ICOs versus VC, and where do we see that going this year?
You want to take it first?
Always. There was a conference this weekend, and there was it was the same sort of question. There was a young lady wearing a T-shirt saying venture capital is dead, and I was like, okay, maybe not yet, but I can see where this is coming. I mean, if you couldn't raise VC money, you would go into crowdfunding, and now you do an ICO, and Some ICOs are legit, and some ICOs you go, well, you just need money. I think and I shouldn't say ICOs, actually, I should say token sale. You're right. So in terms of the token sales, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think there are some fascinating features. I think the liquidity element, I think the borderless element, I think that's great. I think startups, entrepreneurs accessing capital differently and super fast. I mean, we see token sales being achieved completely in minutes, if not seconds. I think that's fascinating. Does it threaten us? Maybe. It depends on the habitat of the investor. The image I use is if you want to gamble money in a casino, well, you go to the casino and then you know what you're going to invest in. If you want to invest in startups, you go to a VC fund, an intermediary, somebody who knows and acts as a gatekeeper, and then you want them to be regulated and, you know, FCA and that stuff in this country. Now, if I go to the casino, I mean, I don't necessarily need a regulated guy to run the casino. I mean, I know what I expect, and I know what I'm going to gamble. And similarly, I don't want to have a casino guy to run the VC fund. I mean, I would be a bit concerned with that. So it's all about the habitat and the investor's preference. We are very traditional, and maybe our services, the value we add will unbundle in terms of, you know, access, giving access to investors of startups and the financial, and we are investment professionals. And maybe we'll have to act as gatekeepers differently in terms of a more regulated environment, which I'm sure we'll discuss. Will we disappear? Probably not. Do we need to get on the train? Potentially. We have a company in our portfolio doing an ICO very soon. Will we become a crypto fund? I don't think so. There are still a lot of investors who are happy with, if not regulation, but a framework. And that doesn't mean we can't do ICOs. I think we'll potentially do them, but with a bit more of gatekeeping and quality control.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super interesting subject of conversation, and you know, likewise, like the T-shirt example, I think I heard a lot of crazy things over the past 12 months. I think generally speaking, if venture capital didn't add more value than the money, it would have disappeared a long time ago. And so what entrepreneurs are raising with VCs for goes beyond just the cash. It's obviously to be there on the board to support them, to add the network, the value, the legitimacy, and a lot of different things that goes with it. So what I think we're going to see moving forward is more of a convergence between token sales and traditional equity funding, where VCs will actually have to be more flexible in their LPA moving forward, having the ability to invest in tokens. Blockchain startups, well, you know, we'll see what happens with regulation this year, but I think a lot of the coins will probably go to zero. A lot of these companies will fail, and then you'll realize you can't just raise, you know, 500 million and then try to build a project from there. It's more going to be about you know, raising a traditional Series A round, and then build an actual, you know, network and utility for token. And then you go on to an ICO, which sort of replaces the growth funding. And so this is where I sort of see this conversion moving forward, and I'm excited about it.
Thanks. I don't know, do we have time for some questions from people out there, or 2 minutes? Does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Okay, no. All right, well, I'll finish on, you know, everyone asked me this, you know, where's crypto going to be in 2018? Where's Bitcoin going to be? Where's Ether going to be? You know, and what are your views?
So where will it be? I guess who knows. I definitely think there'll be more, some form of regulation around it. It's interesting. We just finished on token sales and ICOs. One of the biggest questions I've had is, okay, you just raised 500 mil in Bitcoin. How are you going to cash that out? How are you going to deal with all of that burden? I think that we will see a lot of quite aggressive attrition in the market. With a few of these altcoins, I don't necessarily, me personally, not on behalf of TallySticks, I don't necessarily understand their utility. I don't see what they bring, but smarter people than me do. I do think that we'll see a convergence between regulation and these technologies. I think that's for sure. What happens after that, I don't think anyone really can predict.
Yeah, I think with regulation will come sort of the institutional investors in the markets. So potentially, I think that's going to be one of the big trends in 2018 when it comes to token investing. If we move into a world where tokens are actually securities, and we don't know if that's going to happen yet, it's going to be easier for larger banks and hedge funds and pension funds to actually invest directly into tokens, and I think it's going to bring about a new wave of growth into the market cap. So we could go to 2-3 trillion, who knows? The same way that regulation could actually be negative for the tokens, and we could go to 0 for a lot of tokens. So it'll be a super interesting year, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you that if I could give the prediction on what's going to happen, I'd say let's all run out here and run Jason Kelly's business. So I won't give that prediction. What I do believe is it's going to drive toward the value. What's the utility? What are we really getting out of this craziness, which it is. And there has to be then some true capability outcome, this exchange of value that I'm talking about. What's most exciting to me is, I believe the market will let that play. That's why we have the market. Eventually, you're going to have to do something with that cryptocurrency, and you're going to have a system that's going to be able to transact with visibility, with trust. I'm excited about the permissioned use of blockchain that's going to allow all of us to transact faster when all of you are making your trillions in your cryptocurrencies. That's what's going to be exciting, is making that happen very quickly.
I agree. I think there's a macro level and a macro and micro level. I'm very excited. I'm very bullish, and I think it will be a good year. I think on the hype cycle, we are very, very high, maybe too high. There will be a shakeout, I think. I'm not going to tell you what I think the price of Bitcoin will be. That's not. But I would expect to see more specific use cases. Enterprise, some companies saying we are going to use, the technology to answer a very specific problem in music or in film. Regulations will have an impact, and I think the good will stay. But I'm going into 2018 like going on a ghost train with no lights, no security, no belt, and then just go for the ride. And I'm like, okay, let me have a little bit of let me see how it works first. So wait and see, but very bullish at the same time.
Thank you all. Thanks, Nitesh, Eduardo, Jason, and Fabio, for your views.
Thank you.